So we're starting to see changes across the North American continent in the way of temperatures warming up. And I think that's going to lead to a really warm end of the year that could flip to a really cold start to January. Right now, here's what we're looking at. We've got a decent storm moving into the west. We've got a front draped through the east. That's bringing some severe weather chances again today, really into tonight and tomorrow across parts of Arkansas, into Tennessee, really the Arklatex. So it's going to be a pretty interesting uh, scenario here with enough wind shear to create maybe even a few isolated tornadoes. Now, this storm across the west is going to move east. We're going to get a little bit of snow out of it. It's going to move through the Great Lakes and then some more snow on the way and some really cold weather moving into the east as we head into the weekend as temperatures get pretty chilly. I want to show you the upper level water vapor. This actually is precipitable water. In other words, this map would take all of the water in the atmosphere if you squeezed it out from top to bottom and show you how much you're going to get. And up around the Arctic, very dry here. You can see that in the grays, all your tropical moisture here to the south. I'm going to put this into motion. You can see some of that getting pushed to the north and east here into just off the east coast. There's your moisture moving into the west coast, sometimes known as the atmospheric river. I mean, it's nothing new. It's nothing crazy. It's just a way of describing this moisture plume. You can clearly see it. It kind of looks like a river, but I always think that when you see how the moisture behaves, it's almost like pouring creamer in a coffee and it just kind of swirls around. That's kind of how the atmosphere works, sort of. It's a lot more complicated than that, but top to bottom, it's three-dimensional. But you can kind of see what's going on here in the atmosphere as this dry air, this cold Arctic air digs south as we head into the weekend. We're going to get that, but watch this Pacific air start to blast into Western Canada. Boom, there it goes. And we start to see it really kind of erode at this Arctic air. Now, this is cold for the east, right? As we push this cold air out across Western Canada and Alaska, it gets shoved down into the east coast. So now we're cold all the way to Florida. But this will not last. I want to show you why. Look out off the coast. This is pretty wild to see too. The moisture getting pushed all the way north into Europe. Look what happens as we move toward Christmas. Now, this is just one model run of the European, but a lot of the long range models are also showing this. This is strong return flow on the Gulf of Mexico. It literally pushes the moisture to Greenland. That's pretty wild to see that, and that definitely means a warm east coast, but I think things are getting reloaded for another Arctic outbreak as we head into January. Here's a look at your Tuesday outlook. As we move through the day, we've got some rain showers that will start to pick up, especially tonight. That severe weather possible right here across Texas, Arkansas, into parts of Louisiana. Some of those could be on the strong side. An isolated tornado certainly can't be ruled out. A quick look at that radar. I want to show you how this will evolve. It's going to be a late night into early Wednesday morning severe weather event here as our large-scale lift starts to move this way in the form of a front. You'll see those thunderstorms start to develop first up here along the Ohio River, back north of Memphis as we get into the early morning hours, and then north of Little Rock, or at least maybe even right on top of Little Rock, getting close to Texarkana during the early morning hours, and this starts to slip off to the south. Embedded in this line could be a few strong thunderstorms with hail, gusty winds, and an isolated tornado. Again, can't be completely ruled out. And this front pushes off to the east. This is going to bring some colder weather here. And the real cold is going to hold off, I think, until the weekend. You can see some of that cold pushing through the Great Lakes into the northeast. It's cold, but not crazy cold. As we head toward the weekend, though, that does start to change. Here comes the really chilly air that I showed you on the map there a moment ago with that water vapor. It's going to be a cold start to next week with below freezing temperatures starting the day all the way to the Florida-Georgia line here down near the Gulf Coast, with temperatures into the northeast in some areas near or below zero. Let's continue to look at the precipitation. We do have some light snow moving through the Great Lakes as we head through Wednesday. Not a lot of snow out of this, but as we get close to the coast, we start to see a little more enhancement to the snow here, especially into northern parts of New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, into parts of Maine, Boston, New York, down along the coast. We're all rain here, and we're watching this next system that starts to dive off to the south and east. That's going to bring a decent stripe of snow from North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, into parts of Michigan, and it might bring some light accumulations into parts of Ohio, West Virginia, Southwest Virginia, maybe even western North Carolina, and into parts of Pennsylvania and New York. And then another weak system dives off to the south and east as we head into the weekend. And this is cold Arctic high pressure building in. That's that Arctic air I showed you. That's, again, not going to stick around very long. Here's a look at your snow totals if you're wanting to track this out. Through Wednesday morning, we'll start across the Dakotas into Minnesota, just a light coating of snow through Wednesday, and then our next system is going to bring more significant snow back here
from North Dakota down into Minnesota, a couple of inches possible. You can see close to 6, 7, 8 inches when it's all said and done. Light snow amounts through the Great Lakes into the Northeast. This would take you through Thursday morning. As we take it out a little bit further in time, you can see more snow starting to pick up, that stripe of snow moving through central Wisconsin into Michigan and into the Northeast. Not a lot of snow expected into the Northeast. We're talking about just a couple of inches here, especially up into parts of the Green and White Mountains. There could be some higher amounts into the higher elevations of New York. But overall, this is not a huge snow event. Kind of a weird look as we get towards Christmas. There's Arctic high pressure building in. Another storm across the west that's just going to pile the rain and snow up here. We kind of skipped through this system, though. We've got a decent one coming on Wednesday. That's going to bring some really heavy snow into British Columbia, some heavy rain, and some high elevation snow into Washington and Oregon. And then maybe a bit of a break with just some lighter rain showers. But that atmospheric river really starts to pick up as we head toward Christmas with another storm moving in and another one. And this one may be a little bit further south into parts of California, Nevada, and then up into Utah with some snow here. Across the East Coast, this is where things get interesting. We've got this return moisture here. Arctic high pressure moving to the east, so there could be some cold air wedging down the east face of the mountains here. Does that give us a little bit of ice from Pennsylvania into Virginia? To be determined. It's showing up on the GFS and the European. But here comes your warm air. You've got a decent trough out west, one off the Atlantic coast, and now you're pushing all of that moisture north and the warm air. I mean, look at this. We're talking about rain into a good chunk of Ontario, and I'm going to widen this out. Take a look at this. High pressure just building here off the east coast or near the east coast, and your moisture plume from the Gulf of Mexico all the way north. I mean, just, again, as I said, taking aim at Greenland. I don't think this lasts, though. We're starting to get some cold air here building, and if you look at the long-term European weeklies, they're picking up on that warm air clearly developing here. They flatten things out, right? They're not picking up on those features that I just showed you that goes exactly opposite against what we're looking at here. However, this is the 7-day averages, so look what happens as we head into January. You start to see more troughing in the east, and that kind of reflects what I'm thinking too. I think we'll see a strong shift, especially as you push that warm air north into Greenland on this side of the low. I think it turns cold in the east. I don't know how long it lasts. If anything, this trough may start to retrograde somewhat back to the west. That may put your snowstorms up into the Midwest, something we've really not seen this year. And that's just one of the factors. There's a lot more to what's going on. We're kind of moving toward a La Nina. And for some of you this winter, although winter officially hasn't started quite yet, some may be thinking it's starting off like a bust. I just made a video last night where we detail some of the things that are happening. It's right here in front of my face. I hope you'll check it out. We go into things like where we are with the La Nina, how the North Pacific Ocean temperatures are impacting the weather across North America because they're having a huge impact. Check it out. I'll see you there.